The La Rosa's Kentucky football position previews continue this week, or this day. We're talking about the inside linebackers led by Deandre Square, where here's the thing I love about La Rosa's. They cut their pizzas and you can get little squares. Something about square pizza. I don't know if it takes me back to the cafeteria, Freddie, or what it is, but I prefer my pizzas cut in squares.
Yeah, I had some Sunday, and they were cutting squares, and which made it convenient because we ate it on the drive home. So it wasn't I didn't have the big piece, and have to manage all that. So it was convenient for me, and it was delicious.
I always go for the corners, the crusty edges. It's a fight in
Corners
my
are the
household.
best.
Yeah,
Well,
you gotta get the corner pieces.
I hate to tell you, when Duke gets older, like my daughter, you're not getting the corners, man. That was the first thing Ellie went for. So that's okay. It's still good.
Well, they've got 3 locations to get any of that great pizza. You can't go wrong with La Rosa's in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can't go wrong with Deandre Square back for it. It feels like Luckett that Deandre Square has been playing Kentucky football for 17 years. No, that was one of his numbers that he wore. He's worn so many numbers, but this is actually just his 4th. He's a true senior senior in action at will linebacker. I know he's really grown a lot since we got to know him 4 years ago.
Yeah, just a steadying force for Kentucky, a leader of the defense there at will linebacker. He's played a lot of football. I believe he started, I think, 22 games or something like that over the last 2 seasons. Started as a true freshman in the Citrus Bowl, that big win Kentucky had over Penn State. And for Deandre, I think really you trust him to be in the right spots. You trust his football IQ. You trust him to lead the team. But he has been banged up in some season, and durability has been, getting through a whole season has been a little bit difficult for him. I think this year, the goal for him is just, try to stay healthy throughout all 12 games. And if he can do that, he can have an all SEC type season, I believe.
Yeah, and Freddie, I think, Luckett hit on the leadership, but I don't think we can properly share with our viewers just how much he's grown vocally. I mean, he was a really shy kid, quiet kid who has transformed into the vocal commander, essentially, of this defense.
Yeah, first of all, Deandre Square is a fantastic young man. I was fortunate to be around him for a while, and the leader was always in Deandre Square. He was quiet, but he is an extremely serious-natured young man, and his preparation in the game of football separated him amongst his peers. So it's always been there. This is a player that I'm happy to see on an individual level have success because Deandre Square does everything right, works incredibly hard, and it's his defense. 2021 is Deandre Square's defense. So I'm happy for him. I think he's going to be a solid player on the inside for the Cats.
The question, though, is who is going to be next to him? A lot of people expect that to be Jamin Davis. He turned into a first-round draft pick for the Washington football team. Now, there's been a big revolving door there. During the spring, a lot of folks thought De'Aaron Jackson kind of rose up, really picked it up to become that guy. Then he suffered a torn Achilles. Out Jackson, in comes Jacquez Jones from Ole Miss, who has played a ton of football, but he has been absent from practice some. He's a little bit banged up, so he's not getting as many reps. Freddie, does that worry you at all, or do you think that the game experience should be able to, win out?
No, it doesn't worry me. Appears to be a minor injury that he's dealing with, so he'll be okay. And I think it's actually going to benefit Kentucky to get reps for Trevin Wallace. And because, when Trevin Wallace was coming out of high school, his film, I thought more of his high school film than any player I've ever evaluated. So I think he's going to be special. Good for him to get reps with the ones. But we can't forget about Jarrod Casey. He's also was a highly thought of prospect out of high school. So we can't forget about him. And so I think Kentucky inside linebacker was a depth concern initially, but it's not anymore because there are several players that can rotate in and out of there.
Yeah, and there are a lot of guys. I do want to focus, though, quickly on Wallace because he's one of the highest ranked recruits Kentucky has signed in the Mark Stoops era from South Georgia. I just want to read you his stat line from his final high school football game. He played every defensive snap on defense. He just learned linebacker last year, by the way. He was playing receiver as a sophomore. And yeah, and then got hurt his junior year.
Right.
So he didn't play linebacker until his senior season. He also played running back. He had 382 yards, 3 touchdowns on 28 carries. 28 carries. He had almost 400 yards, and the refs ruled he fumbled it just outside of the end zone to end the game. Couldn't carry the team to victory. When you look at Trevin Wallace, he does not look like a kid that just finished playing high school football.
No doubt. And some would call a freak. I think that's kind of what he is. You saw he did some stuff in track and field down there in Georgia. I think he maybe won an event. There's video of him cleaning 335 pounds as a 17-year-old kid. He's a dude, and he's going to play this year. He
broke a school record set by the guy who from the Georgia wide receiver that scored against Florida in the cocktail party. Lindsey Scott. Yeah, he broke Lindsey Scott, a wide receiver's track record at his own school.
Yeah, he's just a freak, and it's all about him just getting enough reps. It wouldn't be surprised if we're in November and he's just the starter there, one of the 2 starters with Square. Like, that wouldn't be a surprise. He was getting reps with the ones in the Tuesday practice we were at, Nick. Obviously, there's the ceiling is very, very high for him. He's as good of a looking prospect I think Kentucky's had join their program in a while. So he's going to push for playing time this year, and he's going to be a guy we need to watch pretty much weekly. And for him, the name of the game, I think, is going to be getting reps and improvement, just how much he improved on a weekly basis. Because if he's doing that, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field.
Yeah, and I certainly expect him to be blowing stuff up on special teams. There's no doubt about that. Another guy, Freddie, you mentioned Jarrod Casey earlier, but I don't think we truly gave it enough time to okay, this kid, he moved around a little bit. He just started playing this position last year, and now they're cross-training. I think depth was a little bit of concern. I mean, that's obviously why they brought Jacquez Jones in. But now you've got 4 solid pieces in there. And Casey's a guy that, for as much as we talk about J.J. Weaver, Jarrod Casey was just as highly regarded as a recruit as when they both signed out of Louisville back in 2019.
Yeah, I think Casey was actually committed to Oregon at one time, or was going to commit to Oregon, flipped to Kentucky. So he was a highly sought-after prospect. I think we need to fully give Jarrod Casey the opportunity to win that job and to compete for that job, because he is a fantastic athlete. He's been moved around once he's settled in that linebacker position. See how he can flourish. And then you also have Luke Fulton, the Michigan State transfer that adds quality depth, not a starter level depth, but quality depth there. So I know we were all 3 of us were concerned when Derek went down, but I think that linebacker position, which is going to sustain injuries, that position is one that absorbs hits on the depth chart. I think Kentucky is equipped to handle that situation.
Now, the big question is, though, we get this year after year after year. Somebody steps up and becomes a superstar. Who will step up and become this year? So is there a Jamin Davis in this linebacking group? Luckett, throw me your spiciest take you've got in your cabinet.
Does someone come in and become a first-round pick in a snap of a finger this year in the linebacker room? I'm going to say no, but I think Trevin Wallace, he's going to carve out a role, and then he's going to kind of be – I think you could go into maybe 2021, 2022, and he'd kind of be the face of your defense. I think that's the one to watch. Quietly, I think Casey's very important because if he becomes a guy they can really depend on, that gives them 4 bodies for this season. But then you're in really great shape, I think, for the future. You could lose Square and Jones this year, but then you've gotten the next year you could have Casey, you could have Wallace, then you could get Jackson back from injury, then Martez Thrower's a good looking young linebacker. Then you're really then you're really kind of in business for the future there. So, but if Jarrod Casey can really come on and he becomes a guy the coaching staff can trust and can make some plays for you, I think that could mean really, really good things for Kentucky's defense.
Yeah, Kentucky could be cooking with gas. Is anybody really, do you think anybody becomes a superstar, or is this one of those you expect solid play kind of all around, Freddie?
I'm going to take a different avenue here, Nick. I think John Sumrall is a superstar of 2021. Not only because of how he develops linebackers. We saw what he did with Jamin Davis. We see what he's done with Deandre Square. But look at this, is also how he recruits. He recruited Trevin Wallace, that linebacker, for his own room. He recruited Thrower for his own room. So I think, if anything, and within the inside linebacker position as a whole, John Sumrall will jump out as a star of 2021.
And Martez Thrower, I know we just kind of glossed over him a little bit because he's a true freshman. He was a big fan of breaking helmets in high school. So
drops hammers on people.
Yeah, he just does. If you're in his way, watch out, because he is going to lower his shoulder and drop that boomstick. So there's a lot to like about Kentucky's inside linebackers, and we like that you're tuning in and enjoying some delicious LaRosa's pizza at one of their 3 locations. We've got one more secondaries up next in our final edition of the Kentucky Football LaRosa's preseason position previews.